Well, hey, what's going on? Nick Kirby here with Chatterbox Reds. Before we get to today's interview, I want to send a special thanks to our friends at 1410 WING AM. That's ESPN Radio in Dayton. Justin Kinner was so kind to partner with Chatterbox Sports for some exclusive interviews down at Redsfest that I am really excited for you all to get to see. Be sure to check out the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. That is 3 to 6 on 1410 WING AM in Dayton. And as always, special thanks to our proud sponsor of Chatterbox Reds, DSC Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks so much to John and everyone down at DSC for partnering here with Chatterbox Reds. All right. Well, here's to today's interview.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Nick Kirby from Chatterbox Sports, live here at the Duke Energy Convention Center, Redsfest 2023. Nick, we just wrapped up with Will Benson. Will Benson is the man. I'm a big fan of Will Benson.
Will Benson's a lot of fun, and he had a hard time getting out of here.
Yeah, I mean, he had a sea of people swarm him coming off of here. I thought they were here to ask me for my. No, it was Will Benson. It was Will Benson. So I survived that one. We'll see. But David Bell with us here to kick off hour number 2 of Reds Fest. And we were kind of chatting a little bit before. And, man, the buzz and excitement, it's at a whole other level right now. And it's pretty exciting. And you've been here for a while now. And you've gone through the ups and the downs. And right now, we're at a peak right now. And it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And I agree about Will. He's just as popular in our clubhouse, just a great guy, incredible attitude, and he's been a big part of our team. He was a big part of our team last year, and I really believe he's going to be for a long time. So, but yeah, it's great. You know, as we look forward to this weekend every year, I always look forward to catching up with our players. It's been a couple months since we've seen them, catch up with our staff, but really, the big reason that we're here is to celebrate all of our fans and show our great appreciation for all their support, and hopefully everyone's enjoying it. It seems like they are. I know being in Cincinnati, the response to our team and the style and the way we played last year has been different, and we really appreciate that. And it's nice to know that people enjoyed watching us play last year. It's important to our team.
So coming into 2024, last year you had players making their debut. It felt like every other week. Obviously, you'll have some next year as well, but it feels like your opening day roster is going to be a lot more set and a lot more continuity going into next year. Do you feel like that will really help your team early in the year in April and May?
Yeah, last year was important. You're right. We had a lot of young players. We worked really hard in spring training, our players did, to get to know one another, become a team as quick as we could. We got off to a little bit of a slow start as everything kind of came together, but pretty quickly we kind of got that going, and they deserve a lot of credit for the work that they did, and it just really grew from there. So we have that year that we have behind us that we can build on. It'll make spring training a little bit easier this year. Having our team a little bit more set, but there's always new players. We just signed 2 new players yesterday, and we'll continue to get everyone acclimated and bond as much as we can as a team, because that was an important part of our success last year. So we'll continue to improve in that area. We have to continue to improve in all areas. We went into spring training last year, and our players were really bought in to working as hard as they could and fighting every day to get better in every area, and we have to continue to that. We haven't earned anything, and I think that's part of who our players are and the identity of our team, so we'll continue with that.
Nick, you touched on this a little bit, just knowing more of an idea of the core of players heading into next year, but last year there were so many question marks heading into the season, not knowing who the core was going to be and when some of these young guys would be called up, who would be ready, who wouldn't. Right now, as Nick said, you have an idea, you and your staff have an idea of who the main core guys are going to be heading into next year. How much easier does that make? And your job's not easy by any means, but how much simpler, I guess, does it make your job knowing what pieces you're working with as opposed to last year where there were just more question marks?
Yeah, I mean, this group of players that we have makes my job a lot of fun, yeah. and for all of our staff. And they have fun. They enjoy one another. So it's hard work, but we love it every day. We look forward to going to the ballpark every day to be around this group of players. And yes, we had work to do, but for that many young players to step in at the major league level and be ready to go and be ready to play at the level that they did says so much about our organization as a whole, our scouting department, and certainly our player development staff who helped them develop. And you also have to point to just the character of the individual player. I think we did a good job of identifying that, and in some cases I think we just really are lucky and fortunate to have the group of players that we have.
So you just signed two new players. Probably just got to meet them. I think you said Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez. What's kind of your just quick initial thoughts on those guys? And does Martinez's past of starting and relieving, does that flexibility really make your job maybe a little bit easier?
First reaction is great guys. They're going to fit right into our bullpen or our starting staff, maybe with Nick. And that's important to us. So I had several players, several staff that from other teams that reached out right away and said, you're going to love these guys. So that's great. For us, that's very important. But on the field and on the mound, both guys are kind of at the peak and prime of their career. They've continued to get better over time. And with Nick Martinez, the versatility that he has as a pitcher, being able to pitch out of the bullpen, start games, and kind of embracing that role, it's pretty rare. So gives us some real options, and as we continue to improve and build our team, knowing that we can kind of slot him in wherever it makes the most sense is great.
You talked about it a little bit ago, Nick, just with all the call-ups from last year. I'm kind of curious on that. Like, obviously your hands are full once the season starts. It's hard to keep an eye on what's going on in developmental, every single day. Whose ultimate decision is it when it is time to call someone up? I mean, how much of a role do you play in that? Like, I know it's like once the season starts, it's tough to keep an eye on what's going on below. But what's your role in that? I guess as far as the decision making, who's the trigger man, if you will, when it comes to calling people up?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Nick makes that call, and then Brad Metter is our general manager now. So. The great thing about the way we work, I really enjoy it, is it is collaborative. I'm included in the discussion. There's no way I can have a strong opinion about how guys are doing in the minor leagues because I'm not seeing them every day. We have great people that do see these guys every day that, we really value their opinion and input on those decisions. But we really believe when everyone's included, and I think my role in those discussions are how I'm going to use them, from a lineup standpoint, playing time, where they're going to fit with everything we're doing at the major league level. Because a lot of times you don't want to call somebody up, if it's not best for them, right? I mean, that's always the number one priority. So we got to make sure there's playing time, and when we're doing that together and we're connected, it's always best for the player. So that's what we try to do.
The same with obviously free agents right now. I mean, what's the communication between you and the front office? Like, do you play a role in that as well?
Nick and his staff do an incredible job. We all trust them, and they're so tapped into the free agent market, the trade market, talking to agents. And it's interesting for me. I try to be in the discussions to learn mostly, but of course I care a ton about it. So I'm going to have my thoughts and opinions. Every now and then maybe it helps, but they're doing a great job with all that.
The 12-game win streak last year, how special was that? Have you ever been a part of anything kind of like that? And it felt like as it kept growing and growing, and the fans started showing up more and more as the streak went on towards the end when you guys came back home.
Every experience you have on the field at the major league level is a good one if you respond the right way. So even when you are struggling, and it's not as much fun, but so that point in the season was really important for our team to go through, to learn what that feels like and know that it's possible and know what it takes, and to get used to it a little bit. And then, what do you do from there? Do you kind of, where do you go from there? It's kind of like having a good year in your first year. That's great, but where do you get the motivation to make the adjustments to continue to improve? That's the most important thing, and we're faced with that going into next season, and we're looking forward to that challenge. But I thought our players handled everything perfectly last year. Guys struggled at the end. Very much expected for young players or all players, and I think that's a good thing because they're very motivated to come back stronger next year.
Looking at the NL Central right now, from my perspective, it feels like you almost have 5 teams that could win the division next year. It feels like it's a very, very competitive division right now. Do you feel that way?
I love playing in our division. It's every game's equally important. There's no question about that. And I love our new schedule where you play all the teams. But there's a little bit something extra when you play within your division. There's no question. And in our division, it feels on any given night, you have to play your best or you're going to get beat. And that's a lot of fun. So I agree that any of the 5 teams can win our division. We're one of those 5 teams, and it's going to take our best and continued improvement to make that happen. So we look forward to that challenge.
I don't know how we've made it an hour into the show, and we have not once mentioned Elly Cruz, and I don't know how that's the case, but here we are talking Elly Cruz. There are star players in baseball, and then there seems to be players like Elly that just have that it factor, that's a little bit different. And we see that in players around baseball. What separates him from the other good players? A lot of good players. What separates him from the other good players that makes him on that superstar level where he's trending?
I think it starts with Elly, the person. You know, not everyone's gotten to know Elly like I have, but incredibly talented for sure. He's athletic. He's got all the ability in the world, but he's a really good kid, young man. He's humble. He's hardworking. He's just has great energy, and he's fun to be around. So that's where it starts, and then everything else kind of comes from there. And you see what he's able to do on the field. It's very exciting. But I tell you, going through what he went through last year, I've never seen a player go through that at that young of an age, to be thrown into it like he was, to do as well as he did, and just have that much coming at you from so many different angles. And I thought he handled it well. I think things happen that he can learn from, and we're here to help him with that. But he's set up extremely well for a successful offseason, and taking care of his body and doing the things he needs to do to come in ready.
You know, when you manage Elly Cruz, we're not talking, where he's at in the lineup, where he's out on the field. It's managing the hype of Elly Cruz too. How tough was that for you and your staff to, obviously you want him to be him, but also keeping track of, if he starts slumping, and how is he going to deal with that adversity when he faces it? And I think he did a great job last season. Yeah,
as a staff, we like to think we can relate to our players. We can relate to that in a lot of different ways. So. Just being there to support him any way we can, and he's doing great.
All right, so David, when you're doing an interview like this, when you're doing a post-game interview, even after an absolutely crushing, deflating loss, you are as calm as they come. But when there is an argument on the field, you're as fiery of the managers I've ever seen. How do both of those David Bell personalities work?
I'm not sure. Something just comes out, It's like, I promise I'm not looking to do that. I do not like doing that. And for all the kids out here, don't do that. So.
I want to see the Viking helmet on when you come out of the dugout just one time. When you're fired up, I want that Viking helmet right over there. That's I want that. That would be.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll love that.
I'm sure. I'm sure. All right, Nick, do you have anything else for Mr. Bell before we head out? All right, well, thank you so much. I know you're busy. You're being pulled in a million different directions, but thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. David Bell, everybody.
If you like today's video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Chatterbox Sports here on YouTube for great sports content all season long. We really appreciate your support. Also recommend hit that bell up in the top right corner. That'll turn on notifications so you're notified anytime we go live. And speaking of live, we have got plenty of shows for you here on Chatterbox Sports. Let's run through some of them for you. First off, we have Off the Bench, our flagship show that is from 10 to noon, Monday through Friday, with host Tom Brenneman and a cast of characters talking all things sports with you. We also have Chatterbox Bengals, Those guys go live after every single Bengals game with instant reaction. So be sure to check that out live after every Bengals game. We have Chatterbox Clicker with Coach Kyle Caskey, former Bengals coach. That's typically on Tuesday nights. Coach Caskey breaks down film with a show that you can't see anything anywhere else like. We have Mac and JT Wednesday nights. The guys cover all things NFL. We have our newest show, Chatterbox Bearcats. That's with host Charlie Walter. Covers all things UC sports. They go live on YouTube after every UC basketball game. And then they also have the podcast called The Chatter. Charlie Walter and Houdini talking all things sports in a fun and more comedic style way. And then, of course, we also have the show I'm a part of, Chatterbox Reds. Currently during the off season, we typically do a show about once a week. Also get some more content for you. But, of course, once the season starts, we'll have podcasts after every single spring training game up for in the morning, and then live shows on YouTube after all 162 games, and podcasts always available the next morning. And lastly, be sure to check out the Chatterbox shop. That is on chatterboxsports.com. All kinds of apparel for everyone. You won't want to miss that.